Welcome back to another session of Just Me podcasts. And today we're joined by the wonderful and very playful Robert Rasmussen. So, Robert, who are you and what do you do, please?
I Let me begin with what I do. I spend my life on Lego Serious Play. That's
Brilliant.
what I do. I'm a facilitator. I'm a trainer, and my background is in education. Really,
Okay. And how did that all start? So Robert, where are you based?
I'm based in Kolding in Denmark.
Okay. And how did you get into Lego Serious Play or Lego itself?
I started my career as a teacher, and then I had some really sort of ideas about what it would be really to build a school, which was a lot of based on hands-on learning, especially for the younger grades, and to try and establish a school where you would maintain the love of learning that children have when they begin in school, but then when they go into the older grades, it often sort of seems to become less fun. So I had the opportunity to become a headmaster and start an entirely new school and recruit teachers and sort of build a pedagogy based on around a lot of project work and hands-on learning.
God, how lovely. I mean, how did you see that gap between, young kids and the love of learning and that kind of departure as they get older? But was that something that you recognized in yourself?
That's a good question. I haven't really reflected so much on that.
Mm.
But I thought, I was just sort of really curious about why, what can you do to somehow maintain that love of learning, right? And it clearly had something to do with being more active,
Yeah.
being more involved in making stuff. And that's what we did. And then what happened was that this school really grew tremendously. In 1 year, we grew with several 100% in terms of student, right? And after 6 7 years, I kind of was sitting back and So originally, my ambition was to advance in within the educational system and become a superintendent and stuff like that. But then I kind of sort of maybe that's not what I want to do the rest of my life. And I felt sometimes that I would spend 90% of my time on those 10% of teachers that should never have been teachers, and maybe also on some of the parents that should never have been parents, really, to be roughly. Then Lego happened to um, look for a project manager that could develop some products for how can you use Lego to for STEM education, for
Mm.
science, math, etc. And so, well, why don't I apply for that and see what that is? Maybe I would have bigger impact on hands-on learning by developing stuff for Lego.
Brilliant. And you joined Lego?
Then I joined Lego, and I, took leave of absence from my job. But after a couple of years, no, I'm not gonna go. And so I worked in Lego for many years, and my expertise in a way became how can you learn from making stuff out of Lego.
Brilliant.
And then ultimately, when they had experimented with this idea of how can you use bricks for what we do it in Lego Serious Play and couldn't make the process work, I was asked to look at, well, you look at this process, Robert, here, because we think we have an idea, but we don't really have any idea how to put this into a process. Then I got involved sort of on in my spare time developing the first prototype of the Lego Serious Play method. And I had a team of 6 people. They were not involved in this here, but when I had sort of the final product, say, you're going to test here. And then I tried it on my own team. And this is why I had my, what I call my Shannon aha eureka moment, because the best answers came from my administrative assistant.
Wow.
Why haven't you ever never said all of these things before?
Wow.
Well, I was never expected to participate.
Wow. That's amazing. And Robert, with the Lego Serious Play, I mean, tell people about what is Lego Serious Play?
Legacy play is a process to get more potential out of people in meetings,
Brilliant.
because when groups, you know even in a family, like a family, or in business or in education, have something to gather because they have to do something that they cannot do in isolation, right? They typically will have what we call a meeting. And what typically happens in meeting is that 20% of the people in the meeting use 80% of the time to talk about what they always talk about, and
Mm.
which you already know they're going to talk about before the meeting even begins. We can live with the 20%, but the problem is that we do not get enough out of the 80% around the table. So Lego Serious Play is a process that will harvest all the potential available in the room by getting everybody to participate in a different way and by using hands to unlock knowledge.
Wow. And why is it with making stuff like Lego, why is it that it unlocks that knowledge? What does it do?
Well, I think there's two things. There's the real sort of scientific part of
Mhm.
it, which basically means that there's a lot of science that supports that when you build in the world with your hands, it helps you build in your mind. So when you make connections physically, it will also help you make connections in your head. So it somehow speeds up the process of thinking, which is thinking is making connections between stuff. Somehow using your hands, and this is what Seymour Papert spent a lot of time on, is really saying, well, you can actually speed up your thinking processes by thinking with things. So using your hands to do part of the thinkings. The second thought is that Seymour once said many, many years ago, and I remember it to the very day, he said that what you learn in the process of making something that is truly yours tend to sink much deeper into the subsoil of your mind than what anyone can tell you. So there is this thing that saying stuff is forgiving
Yeah.
because it just disappears. But when you say stuff and visualize this stuff in the terms of Lego, it becomes much more committed. I have actually, it's all like concretizing your thoughts.
Mm,
They're not just in your head and they're not just sort of floating around in the air. They actually become really concrete for yourself. So it's much more committed to it.
brilliant. Brilliant. And what have you learnt along the way? I mean, because you've had a wonderful career, haven't you?
I think my biggest learning is that every person in this world is really, really unique. And nobody really has the same understanding of anything. It's because often when people say, yes, this is how I see it, I agree, I see it at the same time. And if you then ask them
Mm,
to visualize what they think, it turns out that it's radically different.
mm.
So the only reason that we get along is that we walk around thinking we fully understand what we're saying, but we don't really, but we don't know we don't understand each other. So we get along.
That's so brilliant. That's brilliant. And what and who has helped you along the way? I mean, what have been the big sort of turning points or the big eureka moments in your life?
I mean, my Shannon was a big turning point in my life in terms
Mm,
of really seeing that there is this huge potential in people that we don't really unlock. And secondly, in terms of taking this along the way, then I have to say my wife
oh,
really have been an enormous support because when you go back uh, 20 years, 20 some years, this idea um, that you could sort of learn from making stuff out of Lego in adult was really uphill. It
right.
was so far from people's sort of thought. So I think my biggest turnaround is that when I met so many Shannons of the world,
Hmm.
from the maybe Brian from the warehouse, or people who actually did not really realize how much they really knew, and when
Yeah,
they helped them discover that, giving them a voice, um, they sort of transformed their life.
that's so wonderful. And what obstacles have kind of hindered you but helped you in a way? You know, we were together in a workshop last year, weren't we? And I loved, obviously, the 4 or 5 days that we were together. It was absolutely brilliant. What has kind of really helped you? Because there are moments, aren't there, that you kind of get stuck. But what are the things that you kind of went, that's really helped?
I still come back to individual
Yeah.
moments with people in this process, because I often get this sort of question. So, what is the most impressive workshop you have done? Yes, I have done workshops for 3,000 people, but it
Wow.
still sort of, for me, comes back to the individual. These moments where you see the individual light up because they surprise themselves.
Yeah.
And that is it is those moments that has always sort of kept me going. I said, this is really, really good, and there must be a way that we can benefit from this in a wider scale. And I really have to say, it is those moments with individuals along the journey from
Mm.
different cultures, from different languages, from different backgrounds that all somehow seem to be able to benefit from this, what we call speaking Lego.
That's so lovely. That really is lovely. And what do you do when times get tough? Do you pick up your bricks? Do you do something? I mean, what has helped you along the way?
I like relaxing and doing sort of what do you call it, handiwork with my hands and stuff like that,
Wow.
and then just relaxing and say yes. You can't force. There's certain things you can't force. You just have to accept it. And I think so. Also, turning point has been in my life that don't get too upset. Right? You know, in many cases when you have this incident that this
Mm.
didn't happen for you or you didn't make this sales, I sort of reverted to one of my principles is what I call the 100 years test, where I asked myself, Robert, what importance will it have in 100 years from now, whether this happened for you or this didn't happen? And in most cases, it really doesn't have any impact. Then I relax. And as long as nobody dies, I will
Yeah,
get along with it.
that's so lovely. And if you could go back to your younger self, Robert, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think sort of in my younger life, I didn't take things serious. Then I can see sort of middle period in my life where I became really, really sort of it's my way or no way.
Yeah.
And then in my second or my older years, I have come to a more no, no, no. This your life sometime in the middle age of your of my life, I made it too painful because I should have relaxed a little more on certain issues where I didn't relax.
And what advice would you pass on to others?
I think if you really feel that you love doing stuff, certain stuff, go for it, whatever
Yeah,
you can.
that's really lovely.
Because I had to make this choice also at a certain point when I was involved in on my sort of spare time in Lego Serious Play and just had my regular job next to it that I couldn't do both right. So I chose Lego Serious Play even though that it was much more unsecure way, but it really felt that there was, you know, a, a real difference that you can make. I know it sounds really, really trivial, right? Because when you want to make a difference, it's also because it feels somehow like a difference for yourself.
I mean, having spent time with you, and I had a series of revelations in the time that we spent together. But what do you see the benefit of Lego Serious Play with people? How does it? I get that it can unlock people's sort of potential, but how does that help them in their life? I mean, because you can do it in a business setting, but how do they take that further forward?
I think one of the part it really really helps people's confidence. When I think back on Shannon and
Mm,
how this had a significant impact on her personal career, so I
wow.
think it really gives people this confidence in themselves that I am just as good as everybody else. I might be thinking differently, I might have different ideas, but my ideas are just as good as everybody else's, right? And the fact that I'm maybe not so vocal and expressing it doesn't mean that I am not as clever and smart as those people who will talk all the time. So I think this confidence in your own ability and your own skills and your own knowledge, whatever they might be, is really what helps people.
Brilliant, brilliant. What's the legacy that you would like to leave behind, Robert?
I hope that when I am with people, that my legacy is that I could wow, what you did, Robert, really helped me, right?
Yeah,
And you did it in a way that was good for me. And that is, and when I met you and when you did this thing, it was beneficial for me. That's what I hope people will think about.
I can absolutely support that in every way because I can remember some of the models that I built with you on the last day that we were together last year blew my mind, and they still do. And I've got photographs of them, and I've shared them with my children and other people. Do you think many people take that away? It's almost like that eureka moment. Wow, I can do this. You're right. It is something that can unlock me and help me think better and more positive.
I hope so. I hope that many people. take away a surprise in their own
Mm,
capabilities, in a
mm,
positive surprise in their own capabilities and insights and skills, and that they on one hand are unique, but at the same time they're other people have similar thoughts like themselves. This balance between, oh, I am like everybody else, but I'm also unique at the same time. So the way I think just as good as everybody else. I might think a little different, but this is just as good as everybody else. I hope they take that away.
yeah, definitely. And how do you see the magic that you bring? I mean, what do you see that as?
I think that the magic that I try to bring is to ask questions to get people to build and think.
Brilliant. And where do you think that came from? I mean, were you curious as a child? I mean, is it something that you've
Yeah, I've always been curious as a child. I've always had this sense that when the final days are gone, right, I would never be in a situation where I would say, I should have tried this, or I wish I had done this, right.
Mm,
I've always said I had this, I don't want to be in that situation when the last day comes.
brilliant. I mean, would you like to see more hands-on kind of Lego serious play in schools and in businesses?
Yeah, I would like to first of all see them in businesses on really really high level. You know, recently there was I helped design a workshop for United Nations Special Envoy to Yemen, where
Wow,
they wanted to design a 2-day strategy workshop for how could you design a bottom-up peace plan for Yemen.
wow,
So I really would like to see
wow.
more in those, and then also yeah, and also of course also in schools, but I think in schools I am a lot of what I did in education also helped a lot there.
Yeah, but it's funny, isn't it? Because I mean, you wouldn't think, would you, that a brick, you know, and some shapes could actually help people do that? Would you?
No, you wouldn't. I think this has also been always my big surprise. It's
Yeah.
always been my big surprise, and it's always a big surprise to me when well, this when you ask people to build certain things, you can never really pre-guess what they will come up
Yeah.
with. I've often had this. Yes, you ask this question. They probably will build something like this, right? But I'm always surprised. I'm always surprised. It's always surprised. Yep, I never thought about it from that angle. I never thought about it from that angle. I never thought about it from that angle.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I remember when we were together, and there were, I don't know how many people, 12 people in the group or whatever, and some of the models that people build to express either emotional things or whatever the subject are truly mind blowing, aren't they? I mean,
Yes,
just
yeah, indeed. It's fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as you say, that you would never get that openness of conversation or exploration just through the spoken word. It will just never happen.
It would never happen, and you would never have this sort of understanding of it yourself because you think you understand what they say, but you don't really. There is something about when we talk about that you communicate to this common third that
Yeah.
just is so powerful.
Because there are studies, aren't there, that say that the happiest people, are people who work, with their hands. They
Mhm.
get more satisfaction through that.
I think so. I think there's something about the reason Lego Serious Play works so well is not because of the bricks. It's because of something else. It's more something to do with our genetic coding and our hands, and
Yeah.
the evolution of us being able to make tools and stuff like that. It has much more to do that than it has to do with the Lego bricks. The Lego bricks are good, very practical, but it's not because of the bricks that it works.
Yeah, and as you say, look, in sort of preschool and primary school, there's a lot more hands-on learning, isn't there?
Yeah, and I still remember that Seymour, because I had the pleasure of working with Seymour for many years, that he sort of one of the ways he differed from Piaget, which was his master, was that for Piaget, we moved to this sense of abstract thinking versus concrete thinking, and this is an evolution where Seymour, no, we will always have concrete thinking. It's not so that concrete thinking is less sophisticated than abstract thinking, which Piaget would say, right?
Mm.
No, it's just another, thinking with things is just another way of thinking, which has huge benefits.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And what's your what we term as a fizzy pop moment? What really makes you kind of go, wow? Is it to see people come alive? You know, like you mentioned with Shannon or whatever.
It totally is, yeah. It
Yeah.
totally is.
And if you could use one word to describe yourself, what would it be?
I don't know, but it's something. I'm very good at asking questions,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you would describe this. I think I mastered the art of asking questions that can help people think.
Brilliant. So,
I don't know if that's a characteristic, but it may more a skill, I suppose, right?
but could you sum yourself up with one word?
No, I'm forever optimistic.
Ah, well, there you are. We'll hyphenate the forever optimistic. I love that. And do you think was that something you were as a child, where you're always optimistic and a teenager?
Yeah, I've always been optimistic and discovery minded. I've always been wondering, when this thing that when you get to a river, I've always been wondering, I wonder what's on the other side.
Wow,
Versus, well, I'm happy on this side of the river.
wow, that's so lovely. And what plans do you have for the rest of the year and going forward, Robert?
Still, having a more relaxed time in terms of work. I mean, I still, I enjoy being with the Lego Serious Play community. I still enjoy doing trainings
Mm,
and workshops and stuff like that. But I also, want to do other things. And
that's wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your wisdom. And I have to say to the listeners, Robert is an amazing person. And the sessions that I had with you, Robert, the thing that I love about you is that you spend a lot of your time observing and thinking, and then you'll come up with a question that will ask something of somebody's model that they've built that is just brilliant, because it then starts the person to think in a different way or uncover something in a different way. It's truly magical. It really is.
well, I'm happy you felt that way. That really means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. Robert, thank you as always. It's just a joy to spend time with you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yep, thank you, and you are definitely good at asking questions.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.